Ladies and gentlemen, thank you everyone for taking time to attend our virtual launch of AGIL Cloud Management. So my name is Clement, and together with a team behind the scenes, we will be facilitating this session. The team is very excited to share with you on our X factors of cloud. So I'd like to invite Stephanie Hung, Senior Vice President, Singapore Business and Cloud Electronics ST Engineering, to say a few words. Hi, Stephanie.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our AGIL Cloud Management virtual launch. I'm Stephanie, leading the cloud business in ST Engineering Electronics, and together with the men and women, which is the next slide behind the scene, we make it official launch for today. For the next 30 to 40 minutes, we will share with you the disruption and challenges facing in the cloud, adopting to the cloud. And Abhishek, which is our CTO, he will be actually sharing with you some of the offerings and services that we can offer to our customer. So over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you, Stephanie, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for your time today, allowing us to present to you the cloud offerings that ST Engineering has been developing over the last couple of months. I would say more than a year. We've been in sort of stealth mode, devising a platform through which we can provide solutions to our customers. And just the idea is that what are the key challenges that we see today in the industry? How do we help you overcome them as you move to the cloud? And also what solutions we have today as first-party services within ST as a group to provide you to undertake that cloud journey. And that said, let me just take a quick overview of showing you how we typically navigate this space. And then I'll take you through the different phases of cloud transformation that we've been working with other customers, not just in Singapore, but across the Asia Pacific region and globally. And post that, we'll take a quick view of how we can help you as you move to the cloud. And let me start talking to you about how we are helping you and how we can help our customers today as we move. I'll just typically start sharing my work. And so typically when you look at how you're adopting technology, right? So I would, from an industry perspective, break it down into 6 pillars. So what is going to be your implementation timeline? What are going to be your development processes? What's going to be your application architecture? How do you develop and package your applications? How do you look at your infrastructure broadly? And then, of course, the crucial part of the conversation is data centers. In some cases, you have a sunk cost. In some cases, you may possibly be at end of life. And then how the industry has evolved in the last couple of years, I would say 20 years is probably a good measure, but the agility at which we are moving today, we've gone from working in the cases of around looking at from months to years, right? Waterfall processes were the standard for developing software. Application architectures were monolithic. Were predominantly based on physical servers. Infrastructure used to be consolidated. And then, of course, data centers did not have the concept of PUE or being environmentally sustainable in that space. Later on, as we moved with virtualization becoming the norm, we moved from doing waterfall to agile. Application architectures went from monolithic to SOA. Physical servers got repackaged into virtualized environments. We went from physical networking to software-defined everything. And your data centers became a lot more intrinsic part of the business than they were before. With cloud, now that portion has come down from months and weeks to even weeks to days. We have large-scale software companies, including internally within organizations, software teams that push software and applications, in some cases on an hourly basis, in some cases every few days or weeks. Application architectures have been decomposed to a point where we start thinking about microservices. Application deployment mechanisms have gone from being on virtual servers to containers or Kubernetes, right? And cloud has become an essential part of your infrastructure. So probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago, nobody thought cloud could be a component, or I would say a key part of your business. But it is today. And especially as we look at this in a post-COVID, post-pandemic global situation, had cloud not been around, a lot of industries would have been disrupted. A lot of businesses would have probably gone under if they were not able to scale quickly to meet customer demand, both internally, externally, as well as on the business and consumer side of things. And then the last part is, as the industry has started consolidating, you're also starting to look at measuring your PUE, or your power utilization and efficiency for data centers. So the global norm today is for you to have your PUE between 1.23 to 1.5. I would say the next sweet spot is to start looking at it from lower power consumption and building a sustainable business model towards going from between 1.0 to 1.2 as a PUE measure. And at ST, we have actually embarked on that phase where we are experimenting with some radical new technologies and how we can reduce utilization of power while not compromising on the service availability or even the service metrics, both internal to us and external to our customers. So along with that, right, you also when you start looking towards the cloud, you start looking at some challenges that you have when you start embracing the cloud. Of course, if you look at it from a Singapore perspective, and this is an ongoing conversation that I see us having with a lot of customers. But if you look at it from a data classification perspective, the taxonomies in Singapore are official open, official closed, and to a certain extent restricted. So any kind of data or workloads that our customers have today, between the bottom three rings, as I would call them, can be run on what we call as the government commercial cloud or public cloud environments, albeit they have to be in conformance with government mandated security and data privacy norms. The other challenge is when you start looking at confidential, secret, and top secret data, there's really no way for any government organization outside of the United States to really start going and putting highly sensitive data onto the public cloud. Of course, because one, you need to consider the concept of data residency and data sovereignty. And when I talk to this with our customers and with a lot of my other partners in the industry, right, a lot of the times I feel that there's confusion between these two terms. You can still have sovereignty over your data without having it resident within the borders of your country. But if you really want to have residency and sovereignty at the same time, then you need to work towards a business model where your sensitive data stays on premise, but it is protected end to end using a simple and flexible taxonomy for data classification that you can scale across both on premise and to the cloud. At the same time, you have challenges in how do you transition and transform your applications from monolithic or 3-tier architectures to start using cloud native services such as microservices, Kubernetes, or serverless functions. You also need to start thinking about how do you look at security, compliance, and audit. Security by design is a fairly expensive proposition, and it's good to utilize as a term on paper, but when you really start putting it into practice, the dollars quickly start adding up. So as you start moving to the cloud, and this is where we advise a lot of customers in as well, is we build these models from the ground up versus trying to reinvent something on the fly. Once you have this as part of your business process, it's easier for you to codify things such as CSA rules, PDPA rules, government-specific data classification taxonomies, such as FedRAMP or so on. From an operations and maintenance perspective as well, your cloud lifecycle and IT services management also changes radically. We recently had the shift in AGIL as a standard from version 3 to version 4, where version 3 really did not cater to the full spectrum of cloud services and adoption, to version 4 now actually looking at how ITSM works and IT lifecycle management works in the case of the cloud. And of course, how do you build operational resilience and sustenance for your lifecycle management? Right. So this is a screen capture that I have from the GovTech presentation. This is available online. And if you look at your cloud policy lifecycle, right, you really need to start with doing what I would term as SDRs, or security design reviews, when you start doing your risk management, sensitivity management, inspection, and then there are different phases where you plan and develop these mechanisms, then you deliver and operate them, you maintain them, which is what I would call as BAU, or business as usual. And then, of course, the last portion is decommissioning of on-premise infrastructures or even cloud assets. And how do you ensure that your data is securely removed from them when you start moving to those modes? So how do we help you when you start moving towards this space, right? I would say it's a catch-all term when you have utilize the nomenclature of secure, govern, optimize, and how do you scale to multi-cloud management. Your typical cloud lifecycle is you migrate first, which is a lift and shift approach, which is fairly an industry standard at this point. Where a lot of companies fail today is they don't optimize, or they don't govern properly, they don't secure properly, but they're looking at just doing migrations and scaling. So your biggest challenge is, if you really want to utilize the true power of the cloud, you need to start moving your workloads from infrastructure as a service to platform as a service, which is where the optimization piece comes in. In certain cases, you may want to redevelop your applications to function as a software as a service application that you can deliver to your end customers as well. Similarly, how do you govern the lifecycle of your applications, but at the same time, how do you go and govern the management? How do you govern the financial spend management, security, governance, risk, compliance, who has access? How do you do secrets management? How do you govern data privacy? Last portion is, of course, secure and scale. You want to make sure that you don't leave open or unsecured workloads on the cloud that anybody can get access to, and use that as an attack vector, or to exfiltrate your sensitive data and just share it out on the open and World Wide Web. And then, of course, how do you scale across? So your standard policies are around assessment, migration, risk scoring, and financial governance, policy identity governance, configuration, security, compliance, IaaS provisioning, and content orchestration. But then this starts it's great when they work very seamlessly on the public cloud side. But when you look at the stack at the base, which is now you have to make all of this work in a straightforward, seamless fashion with a uniform set of requirements, both on the private cloud environments across different software and hardware stacks, to bare metal deployments, to including public cloud. This is where it gets a lot more complicated, right? And then this is where you need a solution which is a hybrid multi-cloud management platform that allows you to have a uniform set of policies and management constructs applied at scale across different cloud environments, which could include private cloud, hybrid cloud, or public cloud only, across different cloud providers. So a single set of requirements or single set of policies applied both on all three CSPs at this point, which could be AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud Platform, and even extending it into maybe Ali Cloud or IBM at some point. And so this is where a hybrid cloud management platform becomes really useful. Officially, so I would like to introduce the AGIL multi-cloud management platform. This is something that the ST team has been working on pretty intensely for the last 1 year. And we have a lot of great customers today who've given us fantastic feedback, and this is deployed and utilized globally. I'm happy to share some customer references or customer success stories offline, since we don't have much time today. But What we offer today as part of our hybrid multi-cloud management platform are three key mechanisms as I would look at. So you're looking at cloud migration planning. You're also looking at undertaking cloud cost management. And you're also looking at a uniform set of security posture management across your on-premise infrastructure to the public cloud. So from a cloud migration planning perspective, we are able to discover workloads for customers in an agentless manner at scale. This allows us to do application discovery as well. So when I talk about discovery, there are two aspects to it. One is a breadth discovery, where we can look at the entire gamut of workloads across your enterprise and your organizations and discover them and their dependencies. But in certain cases where you want to really dig deeper into a specific application to see, can I just sort of containerize this application on the fly? I don't have time to recode it. Maybe it could be a COTS application that the vendor has stopped supporting, or maybe you have a legacy application that you need to suck out from a Windows Server 2003, 2008, or even a Windows Server 2012 environment. Could be a WebSphere application, could be HPUX or AIX. So how do I go about extracting that application and moving it to a container environment and deploying it on the public cloud? So this is where the depth discovery and assessment comes in. So we work across the spectrum. And then, of course, once you have this discovery and assessment done, the next part is transformation. How do you map your services or your applications to their cloud equivalent? And how do you control your spending once you're on the cloud? How do you assign budgets? That could be a soft quota or a hard quota. And how do you automate cost recommendations and automate savings when you're on the public cloud? The third piece is around your security posture management, where you obviously want to minimize or zero out your attack surface. You want to be able to visualize in a graphical format a single application, who has access to it, what are the different dependencies for that particular application, and what security governance frameworks do you want to apply in a uniform manner without breaking the application or without breaking any regulations or laws. Some more cloud adoption challenges that we typically see is when you look at public cloud environments, in certain cases, a public cloud may have different portals to go and look for information. For example, your security and incident management on the public cloud is in a different portal. Your provisioning is in a different portal. Billing is in a different portal. Making or data visualization is a different portal. If you want to do any sort of governance management or identity management, that's again is a separate portal, right? So how do you reconcile all of this information with your on-premise deployment? Similarly, IT service management, your configuration management databases, they're spread across tools, Excel sheets. Funnily enough, I still know a couple of very large banks that manage their entire IT processes based on Excel sheets, which are heavily loaded with macros and formulas for them to make sense of it. So there's no automation over there. So how do you take a step up and move beyond that, right? You obviously have to deal with multiple tools and disparate data sets. There is a lack of visibility into applications and dependencies. In some cases, even today, when I talk with a couple of customers, as we start doing a more holistic approach, I see that to cater to one use case, they end up utilizing maybe 4 or 5 different tools to get the data that potentially a single tool can provide to them, or a single tool chain can provide to them. You obviously have over-provisioned workloads that can cause cloud cost spikes and budget overruns, and this is especially true in on-premise infrastructure, on-premise private cloud environments, where your application teams or your workload teams may tell you that you need X amount of capacity, X amount of resources. But when you really start digging into details as part of the discovery process, you realize that they may not even be using beyond 15 or 20% of the allocated capacity. So that's money that you're spending with no reasonable ROI because you have over-provisioned and it's costing you a lot more in your budget overrun. You potentially have aged or miscalculated cost assessments that you'll need to reconcile on a monthly basis, which means you need to dedicate teams of people to go through tons of spend information or calculations to figure out, Am I spending the right amount of money or am I overspending? Fourth part is around cloud sprawl, right? How do you control unmanaged growth due to unchecked user access and policies? Cloud access security brokers are a great, I would say, service to talk about, but not everyone gets it right. And again, when you think about cloud sprawl, you also need to think about service provider diversity. You obviously don't want to go all in onto a single cloud provider. If you're using productivity tools for email or chat from one, you may definitely need to go and put your core workloads onto a different cloud provider, because what happens in a scenario, there is a core service outage, could be identity, that brings down your entire infrastructure and you're not able to log into your workloads, you're not able to service your end customers. So that's a real challenge that you also have to look from an unchecked user access and policy perspective. So the Agile Cloud Management Platform is actually a single platform that can be utilized for both migration planning, management, and governance for multi-cloud environments. So we start off with the planning, manage, and govern cycles, where you start off with an application discovery. We do a migration assessment. We can do an optimization and right sizing. We can also do cloud security posture management, and where we build in standard templates such as PCI DSS. If it's healthcare data you're looking at, we have HIPAA and high trust. If you want to, for example, codify Singapore's PDPA or even the EU's GDPR, you can codify those regulatory terminologies into actionable controls that allow you to govern and secure your data at scale. Similarly, if you're looking at ISO 27001, SOC1, SOC2, to a certain extent, even FedRAMP moderate and FedRAMP high, that is something that we can codify out of the box. And then, of course, the last part is run state operations after you've migrated and you want to do ongoing cloud cost optimization and usage optimization, right? The manage and govern piece post-migration, as you transform and keep on optimizing further, is really the sweet spot, right? That's your actual digital transformation. Just moving lift and shift at scale to the cloud is not digital transformation, no matter what the marketing material for anyone else might say for you. We also have application intelligence built into the Agile Cloud Management Platform. So what we can do is we can do an agentless discovery for your on-premise applications across Docker, VMware, Red Hat Linux, HP UX, Windows workloads, Kubernetes, AIX, Linux, and Swarm. We also do application mapping, which allows us to do topology mapping with dependencies all the way down to the base physical server till different services, mapping out the data flows and how they work. And then, of course, understanding the intricacies of those applications, understanding the standard utilization for them, and how we can scale and how we can go to the cloud. So, of course, how does this work in the case of an actual discovery? So your standard challenge when you do a discovery and assessment is that how do you do migration planning? The standard industry approach is to throw teams of people at a problem. You use a myriad of different tools that allow you to discover data, then you use teams of people to reconcile that data, manually build those frameworks and provide you results, right? There's still a fairly high 15% margin of error built into that, which is a lot from an industry perspective. So, and not a lot of organizations have a full picture of their hybrid IT services, no matter the amount of sophistication you may have in your technology process. So what are the key benefits that you get as when you use the Agile Cloud Management Platform, right? You get an automated discovery and assessment tool, which is best of breed. In a lot of cases, a number of the hyperscalers also use our solution to do discovery and assessment for customer workloads. Your assessment timeline is reduced from a few months to 4 weeks or less. You can also discover standalone systems that are not domain joined. So what you're seeing over here on the right-hand side is a visualization of an actual, I would say, customer demo instance, where we did risk scoring from a migration planning perspective for different applications. We also did mapping of services from on-premise to their cloud equivalent. And this was all done in an automated fashion. And the risk scoring actually allows you to go and say, what is the system with the highest amount of risk for me to migrate, which means it's business critical, could be something like SAP, could be Oracle RAC, or could be a core in-house system that you classify accordingly. And then this allows you to essentially map your migration waves for applications from the lowest risk to medium risk to high risk, allowing you to map out your migration and optimization roadmap, but also allowing you the, I would say, good comfort or good peace of mind that you're not going to disrupt your business when you start doing the migration. From a financial and operational governance perspective, how do you optimize cloud cost and govern usage, right? Biggest challenges that we've seen are overspending on public cloud. A lot of customers miss visibility and control of cloud spending. It's very easy to get started with shadow IT. You may have, it just takes one person to go use their own credit card or use a corporate credit card to spin up a subscription and start deploying workloads on that, right? And how do you connect cloud spend to business outcome? This is the most crucial part that a lot of people miss out on. I would say you need to start working backwards at what is the business outcome you're looking at? What is your business objective when you move to the cloud? And from there, map that to your technology requirements, your needs, not your wants. And that would typically give you a more holistic picture. Of course, then comes the question, how do you optimize cloud resources and spend? How do you know how many reserved instances are needed, for example? Do you need to prepay for a full year? Do you need to prepay for 3 years to get better discounts? And how do you govern use of serverless functions? Right? The Agile Cloud Management Platform allows you real-time visibility and analysis of cloud management spending, optimization, and your security posture management across services. These are standard out-of-the-box visualizations, and you can define budgets for organizations. You can see who's exceeding what. You can look at your spending with cloud providers. You can also look at your average trending spend. You can see the regions where your workloads are deployed, and you can also visualize if someone is trying to spin off workloads into regions outside your territory that may not be in conformance with your company compliance. And then again, you have value-added services such as governance of Kubernetes and serverless functions, not just on-premise, but across public cloud environments. The last and most crucial piece is around security and identity governance, right? You want to secure and have automated policies in place, as well as continuous monitoring for governance. Some challenges that I see even today are there's no real-time awareness of risk and security posture management. In a lot of cases, you still hear about data breaches happening, and that's more of a reactive mechanism. What if you were able to stop attacks before they start? What if you were able to stop compliance and governance violations even before they were kicked off, right? I have a separate session later, but maybe if you're interested, I'm happy to have a one-to-one conversation as well. How do you prevent zero-day attacks right before they start? How do you get a secure operating system platform instead of trying to layer it with multiple different tools and technologies? How do you secure your hypervisors against zero-day attacks? How do you, for example, stop something like Spectre or Meltdown at the software layer, right? Without depending on the principal to provide you that level of, I would say, patches or fixing those security flaws inherent to the hardware. How do you secure operating systems for IoT devices, edge devices, even maybe sensor platforms or drone platforms at scale using a secure operating system? So I'm happy to have a separate conversation around that. But back over here, all of these are intricately tied together, right? How do you map policy violations to resources and associated rules? The Agile Cloud Governance Platform allows you to do continuous risk posture analysis and reporting. We have inbuilt best practice policies and standards such as NIST, PCI, HIPAA. If you want to do CIS policies, we have those mapped in. If you want to do ISO 27001, SOC 2, we have those mapped in as well. If you want to have an agency-specific or a business-specific policy, we can templatize that and evolve that for you. The CMP also allows you to do real-time monitoring for policy and configuration drift. So if you have a software that was updated recently that caused a policy violation, it's a very intuitive interface where you can quickly double-click, dive into, and see what the policy violation is and why it is a problem. You can also do integration with ServiceNow and Jira. So if there's a policy violation or a compliance violation, an incident is automatically created and the appropriate personnel are informed either via email, SMS, or both. And of course, you have a customizable risk score for different tools. Each organization's risk management is different. So we give you a very extensible platform that allows you to customize the risk and the TVRA rules to your own risk management and security posture management, and map and utilize that to govern your ongoing cloud management. Last but not the least, of course, you have a single pane of glass. Instead of going into multiple different CSP portals to try to figure out who's doing what, or why do I need to go into AWS, for example, to manage X, I need to go to Azure for Y, I need to go into the Google platform for managing Z. We aggregate data from all of them into a single pane of glass where you can apply a uniform set of policies across, right? You're also able to look at multi-cloud workload portability, where you can have a containerized application deployed on the public cloud, on the data center, or out to an edge device, both in a disconnected or connected scenario. You have service orchestration across multiple clouds and edge, which is made very easy. You get comprehensive visibility through a single pane of glass, as well as a single dashboard for integrated cloud operations, both on the public cloud side as well as the private cloud side. A couple of the service offerings that we offer today are to our customers, which is some of the most popular, in my opinion. And of course, there's a couple of assessment workshops that we undertake to understand how we can help you. Right? We start off with the foundational workshop, move to a vision statement and scope validation along with you and your teams. Then we start working with your teams to do an automated environment and data inventory, validate that with your SME input. We inject our discovery tools to make sure that the data that we have collected is matching the data that we discover. We complete the inventory, we analyze the current data, and then we provide you the deliverables of the outcomes, which includes a very comprehensive set of reports, both from a practitioner's perspective and from a CXO and CTO perspective. You get an application readiness matrix that tells you whether certain applications need to be retained, rehosted, rebuilt, refactored, or replaced. You have a standard IT portfolio to multi-cloud mapping for services. We also provide you a yearly OpEx difference between on-premise environments to cloud. And of course, a lot of value-added services beyond this. Some of the offerings that we work today with our customers, not just in Singapore, but across the region, is of course doing a comprehensive infrastructure assessment as you move to the cloud. Then we move on into the application assessment, which goes a lot more deeper into looking at the readiness for your core applications. The last one is a TCO assessment. And of course, then you have an application modernization piece as well. So a fairly comprehensive suite of offerings, and we'll keep on adding to them as the days go by. But at a high level, I would say if you're really looking at moving to the cloud, start with any one of these, right? So these can be a package or these can be an individual work stream in itself. And we'd be happy to understand what is the outcome for the business and drive that to a conclusion from using technology standpoint. So that said, I'll hand over back to Clement. And the idea for us is, how do you achieve these X factors? Right? What is your readiness? How do you look at risk management? How do you look at resilience? And how can we help you scale? So Clement and Stephanie, over to you.
Hi, thanks, Abhishek. So actually, we are going into the Q&A session. So there are actually a number of questions is actually on the question and answer. The first question, what is the most compelling reasons to shift to the cloud? And many people would actually quote, cost is the main driver. when we further study and understand, we realize that actually there are more reasons that is contradicting to just the cost component. As Abhishek shared earlier, that there are many technology disruptions over the years, and there are increasing complexities and integration challenges to manage all these cloud disruptions. So one of the things that people are also talking about is how do we actually simplify and managing it? So that is why one of the things that come from the cloud is that now you can actually subscribe to infrastructure as a service, subscribe platform as a service, and software as a service, and remove a lot of the complexity in managing the technology's disruptions. Second piece is really about the time to market. I ever talked to a CIO before. He mentioned that previously when he actually needed to actually roll out something, he probably need to actually, just for one server, he probably will have to take about 9 months to actually raise, the budget requests, for quotations, requisitions. By the time he actually have his server, probably will be 9 months down the road. But now it's very different. He can immediately, within 2 minutes time, he can actually provision the server in the cloud. So the time to market become the second most compelling reasons why customers are actually moving to the cloud. So maybe Abhishek, you have any things that you wanted to do to add to the compelling reason that why customer moving to the cloud?
Sure. I think so. One of the key things is what is a compelling event for you to move to the cloud, right? And I think in today's post-COVID scenario, the most compelling reason a lot of the marketing people will say is digital transformation. Technically, it's a misnomer in that sense, but really what as an organization to move to the cloud, you want to be agile, right? You really want to reduce your OpEx and your CapEx for net new on-premise investments. And it's also a question about how do you change your business model, right? Can you start using technology similar to how you pay for your utilities? So if I use, say, maybe 1,000 liters of water in a month, I'm going to pay more versus someone who's maybe using only 100 liters. Similarly to how you pay for power. The more power you consume from electricity perspective or gas you consume, you're going to pay more for it. So how do you optimize it? How do you find the right fit? And that's also a business transformation that customers look at from a, I would say, financial perspective, but also it empowers their teams and the technology teams that support the business to be a lot more agile, to start pushing out more business-centric functionality in the applications or services than what they would have been able to in a traditional aspect. The last factor is around global reach, right? The cloud allows you to scale globally very quickly and very fast compared to going through a multitude of, paperwork-based exercises where you have to get approvals from different places. So if you have a standard format, if you have a standard go-to-market mechanism that you can codify as part of a shift, I think that's another compelling event. And for the business to grow, that's another compelling event for you to go to the cloud.
Yeah. In fact, actually, to add to that point, the digital resilience is another key compelling reasons. And many of the customers are also looking into that if I have one of the cloud that actually have outages, how do I maintain the resilience across my whole global operations? So that is the reason why many of the customers now are also looking into what I call the multi-cloud management. So that actually goes to the next question, is that does AGIL multi-cloud management platform provide application and digital service centric view so that it is easier to troubleshoot issues and understand the impact? So Abhishek.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yes. Obviously, the Agile multi-cloud platform does provide application and service-centric views. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's a very easy and intuitive interface. So if you have an issue on a particular service, it's practically you see the alert. You can keep on double-clicking on the alert, and in 3 clicks at the most, or 2 clicks at the most, you actually visualize the error. You can see details about the error or the issue, and you can take actionable or you can take actions that help you, fix those issues. So the idea is, how do we drive you from a decision dilemma or just doing root cause analysis to, moving to a function where you are more empowered with the right amount of information on hand to actually go and fix the issue. Even at cloud scale, the biggest challenge is making sense of data. The amount of data that is generated in the cloud, even at your workload level, is fairly large. So we have been very prescriptive in going down a road where we know what the problem is and we focused on fixing that one particular problem. So if there is an issue in your services, or we want to make sure that those issues are highlighted, versus you as a administrator or you as a business owner having to go and hunt for reasons to go and fix.
Yeah. So actually, for those of you who are actually interested on the AGIL Cloud Management platform, please drop us, a note, an email in the feedback for a technical demo, and we'll be very happy to actually organize a further technical demo for the cloud management platform. So the next question is, what are the key differentiator for AGIL Cloud management multi-cloud management platform? What is the value to us as the end customer? So I think for that, I would say number one is really about the visibility and controllability, in the sense that you actually have a single control plane of glass to manage the resources in the multi-cloud environment, rather than you go to each of the cloud looking at each of the dashboards separately. Now you actually have a single pane of glass that actually you have the full visibility and controllability. Second piece, I think it is really related to the governance, in the sense that you will have a security governance to actually have the posture of all your securities control, standard controls, compliances, and and you can actually continue to monitor that. Second, you're also looking at your identity, who are the people that actually accessing your cloud resources. Third, it is really on the data governance. In that sense, you actually have capability to actually look at your data protection across a multi-cloud environment. And then the last one is what I call the financial governance, where now you actually have the capability to control your costs. Many of the customer actually, when they go to the cloud, they thought that they will save costs, but instead they actually have a lot more cloud wastage. In fact, the Flexera report say that there are about 30% of cloud wastage. And how do you actually manage the cost across all the environment when you're enabling self-service for your developer infrastructure as a code? So you got to have a mechanism and governance to actually manage your financial aspect of it. So these are the four key areas that I think why is a differentiator for the AGIL Cloud Management. Abhishek, you want to add on any more?
No, I think you've hit it spot on.
Yeah.
I think the idea is that the differentiators that I would more or less look at is, as an end customer, if I'm able to view everything in a single pane of glass, right, and I get a holistic view across different practice areas within my business, which includes, say, data analysis, the networks, the workloads that you're running, both from a business perspective and a technology perspective, as well as the security, governance, and compliance side of things. It's a very easy thing to do. It's a very easy and intuitive interface to use, versus having to go and hunt for the same data, pipe it to a third party, then use manual processes to make sense of it.
Right. So here we have one more questions, and I think that I have done a rather thorough assessment of on-prem and cloud deployment in my previous role. It appears that cloud deployment of solution is only good for right sizing of infrastructure and user testing in the short term. Over time, costs will add up in such a way that can be much more expensive than on-prem deployment. Is cloud deployment is viable option in the longer term?
So that's an interesting one. I think I've rarely seen this question come up, but it is top of mind when I typically talk to my customers and partners. The biggest reason I see when people look at this from you don't need to necessarily approach this only from a cloud, I would say, economics perspective, right? You need to understand that I spoke about this briefly earlier. A lot of the companies where you see some of them start repatriating the workloads from the public cloud to on-premise is because they don't transform in the cloud, right? If today I am running virtual machines at scale on-premise and I move them to the public cloud, by year 4, if I have not transformed those VMs and the applications on those VMs into platform as a service services, that is the sweet spot, right? That's where you're going to save a lot more money, and that's where you're going to be able to scale your business above and beyond. So a lot of customers who I see start talking about repatriation of workloads back on premise is because they're still running the virtual machines as they are, right? You really need to take that step from going from infra as a service to platform as a service. And that is the most challenging aspect, right? Which is where application modernization comes in. If I were to put this in roughly time frame, for the first 2 to 3 years, when you move infra as a service to the cloud, you're going to see enormous amount of savings. Roughly on average between 30 to 35% year on year annualized savings that you can put back on your books. Year 4 onwards, or year 4 is when you are at parity between what you are spending on premise versus what you spend on for infra as a service on the cloud, right? Because there's only so much optimization you can do on the virtual machine side. So if you don't transform and go to that next level, this is where I as a CIO would probably think, okay, if I'm spending $1 million today on premise, when I move to the cloud, I probably spent around 700,000, 600,000 for the first 2 3 years. But year 4, I am now at a dead end, right? I'm still now looking at overall spend of close to $1 million. So why not just move it on premise? And I think that's a wrong way. I mean, it's a great way to think from a business perspective, but from a technology perspective, you really have to take the step and evolve, right? This is where we can help for you to transform from IaaS to PaaS and from PaaS to SaaS. And you really need to take that as an organizational effort to move that extra leg.
Yes, thank you, Abhishek. So actually, that actually comes to the end of our webinar. So Clement, over to you.
So I just want to thank you, Stephanie and Abhishek, for sharing your insights to cloud management. And I wanted to thank everyone for taking time to attend our cloud launch virtual event, the X-factors of cloud. I'd like to hear from all of you. So if you can just take about 5 minutes of your time to fill out the short survey by just scanning the QR code on this thank you screen before you leave. So once again, thank you for taking time to join us, and we hope you enjoy this session with us. So till next time for the next cloud session, TGINF, and have a great weekend.
Thanks everyone. So please drop us a feedback and also your contact, so that if there is an urgent request, that we can reach out to you quickly.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.